How y'all doing? Are you as relaxed as I am? Oh yeah. Show of hands, how many were at the last meeting? Okay, cool. So we've got some knowledge from where we've been and where we're going. We're going to talk tonight about kind of where we're going and deal with some things from there. We're going to talk about the questions from the last meeting, the July 24th meeting, and then we're going to talk about the current draft of the 2020 operating budget. I lost 20 years there somewhere along the line. Before that, we have one of the best rumor mills in Brookridge I think I've ever run across in my life, and I've seen it all. Well, I want to touch base with you in regards to the clubhouse a little bit, just to give you a little bit of information. Is this cutting in and out? It seems like it is to me. We'll try not to make it do that. The clubhouse. There's at the next board meeting, which is going to be next Wednesday night, the regular board meeting, there's going to be a full report issued on it. But I just want to give you a few things so that you've got some idea of where things are at. We had a contractor. We hired the contractor. He came in, was doing good work. Towards the end of June, he walked into Ray's office one day and said, "I'm out of money." It seemed that he had some financial problems without putting other people's information out there. The money that he put in his bank was taken by some other agencies. I'll just leave it at that. At that point, we contacted our attorney, and our attorney suggested that we get some other quotes as far as somebody to finish it up if we needed it. At that point, the contractor that we had said he would be able to finish the work and move forward. On the, good gracious, I got to look here, 22nd of July, Vince and I, Linda Smith, and myself were here. We met with the Shaw representative. We wanted him to look at the floor, make sure everything was still okay warranty-wise with the contractor that was installing it. Ray showed up at that meeting, and he had just come from his office, and the contractor walked into his office that morning and quit. So now we had some material on hand. We'd ordered some other material, but when the contractor told us that he was out of money, we made arrangements to pay Shaw directly and have it shipped here. So I kept it out of the contractor's hands. So we had the material on hand to work and continue on the floor. The Shaw representative was going to look at some different contractors to see what was there. We had two people that worked for the first contractor. We contacted them to see if they wanted to continue with the work, and we would pay them. They elected not to because we had contacted another contractor to get an estimate to finish the floor and bring things through from there. We contacted them. They came in, worked, and moved it on through and finished all the flooring and put things down from there. There's been concerns that we spent a whole lot of money. The money for the flooring came out of the reserve fund, didn't come out of the budget. It was in the reserve fund, and that's what the money was scheduled for. We ended up, because we had to bring a second contractor in, we had a contract with them. We'll end up, actually, all said and done, we'll end up over budget by about $15,000. Now, before you go, okay, we're going to be over budget by $15,000. That includes the money that we paid the first contractor. We've already started processing on legal action towards that first contractor to get a return of about a little over $19,000. So, if you want to look at it that way, if the first contractor had been able to fulfill his commitment and move all the way through, we would have come through actually under budget. As it is right now, we're about $15,000 over budget. We've got legal action that we've already started moving through with the first contractor to get a return of the $19,000 and a few odd dollars that he owes us. So we'll have to see how that plays out. All of that money came out of the reserve fund. It didn't come from the operating fund, and you need to make sure you understand that. And so if somebody says they just blew money out of the operating fund, money didn't come out of the operating fund, that came out of the reserve fund. Okay? That's just to give you a little update on the clubhouse where it stands. The wainscoting is going to go through. They're going to end up staying in the wainscoting on the side. We've got wainscoting to finish down the hall. We're waiting for Home Depot to get their supply in, and we'll order the rest of it to get the rest of the wainscoting completed. All the floors are done in all the rooms, so that's moving forward from there. Handrails got put down the hallway. We'll get the library finished. The weight room is all done, and then it'll move on into down the hallway, finishing that, and put the handrails up down there. Okay? Wanted to give you some information. Now you know. If you want to get a complete, full blow-by-blow, come to the next Wednesday board meeting here, 7 o'clock, and you'll get a full blow-by-blow of that. So, okay? Okay. So now, tonight's meeting, what we're going to talk about, we had some questions that were brought up at the last board meeting, at the last town hall meeting, and I want to touch with those with you first. One of the first concerns raised was that we are not investing in other vehicles to increase our returns. All of our money is invested in CDs and or money market funds. That's where it's invested. Why aren't we invested in vehicles to increase our return? First reason is we've been advised by our attorney investing only in absolute safe conservative vehicles is a part of being a fiduciary in a homeowners association. That said, the board cannot place other people's money at risk for any loss. That's the nature of being a fiduciary. You are accountable to your members and have liability for their money. That's a direct quote from our attorney in letters that he wrote back to us. That's reason number one. Reason number two, our current bylaws state, Article 11, Section 1, quote, BCPO funds shall be deposited in the name of the corporation in such banks, savings and loan association certificates, or money market funds as determined by the treasurer to be in BCPO's best interest with timely and proper notification to the board. Everybody understand what that means? That means right now we as a board cannot. Now you're going to hear, and if you go and you can go read the bylaws on the website, they're there for everybody to read. If you go to the end of the bylaws, it tells you that the board can elect and go to the people and say, we want to invest in stocks and equities so we can get a better return on our money. Anybody see what the stock market did today? Mm-hmm. I don't think you'd be real happy with us, but the board can do that, okay? There's a second caveat to that. If the board elects not to do that, and that's been the feeling of the board thus far with previous boards and up to, and this current board hasn't really discussed this, but I would have to say, knowing some of them, they feel the same way, that we're not prone to do that. There's a second caveat in the bylaws, and if you look right underneath that, it said that the people, okay, can come with the proper paperwork to the board and a petition, thank you, somebody thought, knew my wheels were gone, with the proper paperwork and a petition signed by at least 20% of all the homeowners in Brookridge. With that, the board will then mail, that's what it says in the bylaws, to all homeowners the request and paperwork to see if the homeowners in general want to start investing their money in something that has such liquidity up and down. And that comes back, the vote from that is what would constitute any change in the bylaws. So the bylaws currently say you can't do that, okay? Our attorney is saying don't do that. We've got a fiduciary trust not to do that. And it can get changed, but it takes some process to go through at that point. So I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands how many people want us to invest their money in something that the bottom can drop out, because Where that ends up for you at the same point, just to give you a scenario, let's say that you decided to do that. And the board said, okay, and we're going to invest the funds, and we do, and you get ready to use the money, and the markets drop, and we are $500,000 short of what we need. Anybody want to guess what happens? A special assessment is issued against every home in Brookridge, and that funds are there to make up that $500,000. Okay, so that's what would happen. It's just a fact of life. It's the way it would work. Okay, so that's where we're at as far as those go. There was something else that crossed my mind I want to say about that. Any questions at this point, up to this point on that? Lucy, wait till we get your microphone up here so everybody can hear you.
Lucy DeGuire, Unit 4. Just to make it clear, this was what I think Mr. Bernard was trying to say, not put it in risk, but look for better returns. And the same things you're mentioning right there. It wasn't to put anything at risk. It was to get better returns. Now, when it was brought up, he was booed. And people didn't like that he brought it up, but I'm understanding that he was never concerned about putting the money at risk. He was just looking for a better return. Now, if there are CDs, it takes time for them to mature. I understand that. But the thing is, once they mature, people should really take a look at what's available at no risk and consider those options to get a better return. I want to make that perfectly clear. Thank you.
Good point. Good point. Turn the 50 here. Yeah, there it is. And thank you, Lucy. And appreciate you bringing that up. I don't think people really minded him bringing that up. So, you know, it just brings up some things to do from there. We have all of our money right now are in CDs and money markets. We have it with 10 different banks. This year we have 3 CDs that are coming up for renewal. We have one next year and one the following year as they're starting to fall in order coming across there. Some of the CDs that we've got that we've put into one-year CD, 2%. With the Fed rate drop at this point, we know that the CD rates are going to drop again. So we'll come back in from there. It depends what that is. And if you watch the Federal Reserve, whenever the Federal Reserve drops their interest rates on CDs are going down. It's fact of life. If they raise the interest rate, CDs will go up. So yeah, we've got 10 different banks that we do look at, and those do get shopped. Matter of fact, the last one we moved was into PNC. That went in, and was it 2%? Was it 2% what we got from PNC on the last one we moved from there? So we do continue to look for the best rates that we can get on CDs. We won't just roll it over with a bank just because we've been there. So we move from there. So thank you. Any other questions? Okay. The other concern, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Paul.
Paul Harrison, Unit 4. Just a quick question on the CDs. Are they most of them invested 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
It depends on the rate we were getting at that particular point, and what, for example, if we were going to put one in now, chances are with the rates that have just dropped, we'd probably pick a short-term CD rather than throw it in a 3-year, because we just don't know what rates are going to end up doing at that point.
Oh, but do we have anything over 3 years?
Not that I'm aware of. Rosemary says no.
Okay.
I didn't think we did. Most of them all are 1, 2, or 3 year CD.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Another concern that was raised is that we're not getting the best returns on our funds, and we could do better than 0.0007%. Question wanted to know why we were sleeping on 1.7 million and why so little in 5 months per the May report. The answers to those are all interest earned stays in the reserve fund, number one. So the interest that's out there that's earned from the CDs stays in the reserve fund. If any money, by the way, in the operating fund, if any of that earns any interest on the accounts that it's in, it stays in the operating fund for tax issues and is spent in the current year so that we don't have tax liability on that. Second point of that is all banks post the interest differently. Most all banks post annually. Some will post semi-annually. Every once in a while you run across one that will post on a monthly basis, but most of the banks are posting the interest rates, interest dollars back to us on an annual basis. The interest shown is monthly is the amount that we know of at that point. So any given point that you're looking at, or any report from our financial officer to list what interest earned on the reserve fund, that's interest that we know of at that point and have been advised of. If a bank's given us if they just issued their quarterly, or if they're issuing monthly, and it has to fall in there, that's where the interest figure is from. After the end of the year audit, we know the exact amount of interest. Those then get posted on our financial reports and our tax filings. The last 2-year tax filings, last year was $17,800, I think it was $35 total interest earned on that $17,000, which puts us right about 1%, which would be pretty much in line with the CDs. We've got some old 3-year-old ones that are coming across at ridiculously low rates. They were 3 years ago. We've got 2%ers that are in there that are helping boost it up. We've got some 1%, 1.5% CDs, and those are coming up for roll over time. So those will change going in from there. The average CD rate for the banks in Florida at this point, before the Fed rate drop, was 2.5. What the banks are going to do from there, they can drop it anytime they want. But current rate for the average bank now is 2.5. Okay? Questions? Mr. Harris, wait for a microphone.
Paul Harrison, Unifor again. I don't know if you mentioned, I wasn't here for the last minute meeting, we were on vacation, but all our money that we gain interest on has to be in an FDIC insured account. It can't be put into a credit union, which we know gives us more interest, so it has to go into an FDIC account. And that, of course, we know pays less interest in a credit union.
That's correct. Banks and savings and loans. Other questions? Anything? Okay. Concern raised at the July 24th board meeting also in regards to the proposed deed restriction change regarding Section A1. The quote, the questions back were these: so the BCPO will not provide a lifeguard and not require a parent or guardian to accompany the child. Is there a reason why it doesn't say a responsible adult? Is there any way that Brookridge would be liable if a 13-year-old brought 2 5-year-olds and something happened? Now, for those of you that weren't at the last meeting, excuse me, this is a proposed deed restriction change. I'll give you a few minutes to read that. You can't read it from back here. I'm messing with you. I'll do it with you tonight. This is exactly what we did the last meeting. I'm going to take it section by section. Section 27. Section 27 is the very top thing, along with persons 12 years of age. Section 27, right of the BCPO to charge fee for use of community pool. Persons 12 years of age or older must using the BCPO community pool must have a BCPO issued pool use card in their possession at the time they enter the pool area, and shall display same to any BCPO employee or representative on request. That's currently as it reads. You're going to see red on here. Anytime there's red, that means a change. Okay? Section 27 would change. The only change would be is that BCPO charge fee for the use of community pool and exclusive use of amenities. That's a change that would be added into there. and exclusive use of amenities. Keep in your mind the word exclusive, okay? Because we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, okay? The next section would be added. It would be entitled A, and would be added to say the following shall apply regarding the community pool. There was an awful lot of talk about it when they tried to look at it last year, that they were going to start charging for continued use of the pool and everything else. So now there's a section that says the following shall apply regarding the community pool. Currently, for safety reasons, individuals under the age of 12 years must be accompanied by a parent or guardian when using the BCPO community pool. That's the way it currently reads. This was a section that the two questions were raised about, because the proposed change that was being looked at is it would change it from A, because there's already an A, to number 1. And instead of saying a parent or guardian, it would read a responsible person who can swim. Okay? That raised several questions. One of those which, A, we do not have a lifeguard, and there's no plans to hire a lifeguard for the pool. B, who identifies who is a responsible person? Okay? That gets to be really subjective. So I've already posted back to our attorney and waiting answers for them that if that was in there, would that cause us liability? I believe the answer he's probably going to give us back is probably going to be yes. Okay? So if that is the case, that section would remain as it currently is, and it would be a parent or guardian. Okay? B, owners may obtain from the BCPO Administrative Office free of charge pool use cards okay? May obtain free of charge pool use card for themselves and their family members related by blood, marriage, or adoption, who are 12 years of age or older and who are permanently occupying the owner's home with the owner and are properly registered at the BCPO Administration Office. Okay? That's the way it currently reads. Would change from B to 2. Okay? And it would be added, all other persons residing in the owner's home who do not qualify for a free pool use card, who are permanently occupying an owner's home and registered with the BCPO office, shall pay a $10 fee to obtain a pool use card. I've got my brother-in-law living with me. He's a blood relative. I don't have a brother-in-law living with me, by the way. He's a blood relative. He can get the pool use card. Okay? Plug your ears, Pam. Pam goes away and I move my girlfriend in. We're not related by blood. She falls under that bottom section. As long as she is, the proper paperwork's been filed, she's passed a background check, and she's okay to live here. Okay? So all that last section does is add to the fact that if you've got somebody living in the house with you, properly registered, and they're not a blood relative, they can get a pool card, but it's going to cost them $10. I can't hear.
Per year?
I believe that's a one-time charge, it's not a per year. I'm sorry, can't.
Hand up.
Let's get a microphone to you so everybody can hear you. And me too, that's okay.
It's one time.
Clarify. Unless they lose it or get it stolen, then
Correct, yeah.
they gotta pay, even the homeowner.
Even if you're home, if I lost my pool card, I gotta pay $10. I gotta pay
Yeah,
$10 to get the
just to
card.
clarify.
Pardon? Yep, it's covered under fees.
Yeah, okay,
Yep,
that's all I want to say.
yep. Another question? Kathleen, did you have a question? Okay. No, it's a one-time fee unless they lose it, and then it's gonna cost them another $10 to get it, same as it would for you.
I have a question about the 12 years or older. 12 years or younger has to be accompanied by a parent or guardian. 12, 13, 14-year-old kids can just come get in the pool.
They have to get a pool card. They get their own card.
They get their own card, but
They get
they,
their, 12 years old,
Yeah.
they get their own card.
They get their own card, 12 years old.
don't have to be accompanied by a parent or guardian.
Oh, they would be, because that's currently, and I'm gonna back up, okay? That's right there, 12 years, under the age of 12 must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. If they're 13, they don't have to be.
So we can just have 4, 5, 6, 12-year-olds running around? 13-year-olds.
One more time.
So we can just have 5 or 6 13-year-olds in the pool at one time on a company?
And I'm hard of hearing, Debbie, so try it one more time.
Okay, so we can have 5, 6, 7-year-old, or 7 13-year-olds partying in the pool on a company, and we can't stop it.
That's correct.
That's the way it is right now.
It's the way it currently is.
Okay.
This is, oh, sorry.
Who's got the mic there? Oh,
I'm Lila Harvey of Unit 3. This says that you have to live in the house or be related and live in the house. What if my grandchildren come down from Pennsylvania? Can I get cars for
You're
them?
gonna get the guest pass. Same guest pass as there that we issue now.
No, it doesn't have that one.
Those don't change.
Do I have to identify myself?
Yes.
Okay, I got 2 questions. First of all, from my years on the VRC, I remember that it was $10 a year, but that may have changed, and maybe I missed on that. But there was a time when we had a temporary card that we paid $5 for, and we used it up over 5 visits.
And Lila was just asking about that for guests coming in.
Okay, we don't do that anymore?
No.
Thank you.
You've got the $5 card. If my grandkids come down, or my son and daughter come down, I can get the guest pass, okay? And they've got the 5 whole bunches of that, okay? That's there, and that will continue to be there, okay? Different than people living here. I'm over positive.
We did almost 1,700.
Okay?
Already.
Okay. So the owners who don't qualify for the, nowhere in this is it saying going to charge for pool use for people who live here, okay? Yes, if you're not a blood relative, that's not covered anywhere. Now it would be covered. They get their $10 card. That's the only thing there. And it all falls under this heading right here. A, the following shall apply regarding the community pool. So that's all the differences in the pool. C would be changed to 3. That's the only change. The VCO will have the right to charge a reasonable fee for the issuance of pool cards for renters, live-ins, and guests. Said fees are set forth in the rules and regulations. They're there now. So the only change to that is it's being numbered 3 rather than C.
Ron,
Yes?
on the previous one, it's marked $10 fee for relevant. If you have a set fee. Can't hear her. You can't hear.
Beverly Epstein, Unit 6. If you have the fee in the previous one of $10, and that's in the deed restrictions, that can't be changed, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The only way it can be changed, anytime you change the deed restrictions, the only way deed restrictions can be changed is it's got to be voted on by the membership and it has to get a certain percentage of the votes to pass.
Right, but all the other fees are in the rules and regulations.
All rules and regulations fees are set in their rules and regulations.
They can be changed.
Those can be changed up and down. Okay? Item B would be a brand new item that would be added to this. The BCPO may charge a reasonable fee for exclusive use of any BCPO amenity. For purposes of this section, exclusive use, quote, end quote, will mean that the amenity or a specific part of the amenity is taken or reserved for the use of one owner to the exclusion of other owners. Okay? So, bocce ball courts, okay? I wanted to have a family reunion, and I invite my family down here, and we want to play bocce ball, and we want to reserve the courts. I'm going to pay a fee for that because I've excluded all you from being able to come and play bocce ball that day. Whether you play bocce ball or not, you can't come because it's me and my family. Okay? You can look across. Boy, you'd never get away with it. If I had lots of money, it'd probably be a pretty good exclusive use fee. But if I had the money, I wanted to rent the pool, okay, that would be taken in, and that's what it would cost a fee. Anytime you got exclusive use means that the amenity or a specific part of the amenity is taken or reserved for the use of one owner to the exclusion of the other owners. It's important that everybody understands that when you talk about exclusive use. Anybody got any questions on exclusive use?
Exclusive use. There you go.
I just have a quick question.
Identify.
Is that approved by someone, or can anybody go to the office and say, I want to rent the pool for the day? Does that have to be some kind of approval? That's my question.
It would, if you're going to rent it exclusively, it would have to go, you can't just walk to the office and get it done. It's going to have to be approved. And the fee's going to have to be set. And there would be a paperwork that would be signed saying that you've got it and what that fee's going to be. Who? Yeah, that's a good question. Who would approve that? It's a good question. We're going to find that out. I'm going to let you know at the next meeting.
Board of Directors. Board of Directors.
The board of directors could.
Sis Van Osten, Unit 2. There's a lot of times that there's nobody out there at the bocce court. And if we had a group of people come in and get the bocce balls and do that, would we have to pay an amenity for that? We're not reserving it, but see, there's a lot of times that the bocce court is empty. Actually, the only time we really play on it is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And it's empty the rest of the time. Could other people come up and play without paying an amenity?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only time exclusive use comes in, again, is if you said, I want the bocce ball courts, and I'm going to bring people in, or I want one full one just for me, and I'm going to bring some people in that aren't residents, and we want to use that bocce ball court. Now, I've excluded everybody else from using that bocce ball court.
What kind of price are we talking about?
It's going to have to end up getting set up from there. There's no way, and you can't. Somebody said, "Hey, can we put it in the deed restrictions?" You can't. Okay, because this doesn't identify. You're trying to say, example, the pool use cards. Boy, that's a bad example to come up with. if you were gonna set it up and try and put what the fee is in here, you'd have to try and set a fee in the deed restrictions for every amenity we've got. And it's almost impossible to do that.
You want to say something?
But setting up exclusive use, now the board can look at, and the board would probably look at rules and regulations and start putting those fees together.
Your turn.
Okay, Deborah Burns, Unit 2. If you wanted a room, down the hall, just to use a room for a couple of hours once a week, that's something we would have to pay for too.
If you wanted to bring 14 friends in that weren't Brookridge residents and use the room back there and not allow anybody else in, that's exclusive use.
It's already there.
But there's already a fee set right now for renting the rooms. There's fees already set for renting the hall. Those fees are already there.
I thought it was all, to Brookridge residents, it was all free if you
I'm sorry?
I thought it was all free if you were a Brookridge resident and you wanted.
It is. The only fee that's there is if you're gonna bring people in and you're gonna rent that, you'd have that room for something that's exclusive, Debbie. If you got Brookridge residents in there, there's no charge. Same as there's no charge for this for Brookridge residents. Okay? But if you wanna rent it, if you go to rules and regulations, the fees are already set up if you wanna rent part of the hall for a wedding, for a birthday party.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Gail Metcalf, Unit 6. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and I think we're getting off the point. But if we could just go over, because people are asking, how do you do this? The deed restrictions is for the major part of it. How we break that down, the board can't say, well, this is what we're going to cost and this is what it's going to cost. Once this goes through, what the board has to do is they have to look at the rules and regulations and the SOPs and anything else that goes with them, all of our paperwork, and see how this affects it. And then what the board will do after this goes through, which I hope that people will vote for because it's the best thing you can do, and then they will decide what fee is set. Now, the way that you rent the rooms or any part of the compound, it's the same way as anybody making up a club. You go to Patrona, who's the activities director, you fill out a form. You say, I want to use this room, or I want to use this, I want to use the pool on this particular date. What happens then is that she will check to see if there's if it is available. If it is available, the next thing that will happen is it will go in front of the board of directors at their next meeting. At that point, the board of directors then votes whether to allow this or not. But before it gets to that point, that's the major part of it. Before it gets to that point, when we do something like this, they will have already set the rates, but they can't set it, and there is no use even going to set it until this is passed. So there's a lot of scuttlebutt going around, but we're getting off point. The thing is that we want to be able to have this exclusive use means that if I want to rent that pool if I want just my family in that pool, I cannot do that unless I rent the pool. And that means nobody else goes in. That is what exclusive use means. That is the meaning, the legal meaning of it. If you want to rent this hall, if you want to rent this hall for just yourselves, you have to pay. You have to do the same thing. You have to go to the activities director, fill out the form. It goes to the board of directors on the next meeting, and then they will vote on it, and then they will get through with the fee. I just wanted to. Does that clear it up, or does it make it worse?
Stephanie Stepkowski, Unit 4. That's fine, but I think the pool should be excluded because there are liabilities, higher liability issues
The
with
homeowner accepts the
using the pool.
I think even without the pool excluded, if somebody came in and said they want to rent the pool, that's not going to happen. I mean, you're not going to take that one away from the residents for an hour or a day.
Well, then that should be put in there.
I think it's already.
Excluding the pool for exclusive use. So that there's no question.
Frank Matthews, Unit 6. How does that affect on the RV compound? If you're Brookridge residents, you don't have to pay, is that what you're saying? Or are they considered that they have a particular place assigned to them and they're going to have to pay?
There are 245 slots in the RV compound.
Something like that.
There are 2,830 homes in Brookridge. If you've got a spot down there, you've got it exclusive to anybody else from Brookridge. So it would apply to the RV compound.
I just wanted that to be made clear.
Any other questions? Okay. We spent a whole lot more time on this than I thought we would. We've already been here 45 minutes. So we're going to go through these next slides in the next 25 seconds, okay? You've got in your hand the third draft of a proposed budget that the Finance Committee has looked at. If you don't have one and you need an extra one, there's some more in the back. You've got a single sheet and you've got stuff stapled together. The single sheet would replace the next to the last page. So when you get back there, if you want to tear that next to the last page out and throw it away, that's fine. Or you can hold on to it, doesn't make any difference. It's just, it has some incorrect figures on it that we discovered at a given point and had to come up with from there. Okay? This is that budget you're looking at. This is the first sheet. This is the administrative part of the budget. And I know you can read that from back here too, because I'm standing back here looking at it. We're going to take that in sections at the same point. Budget comparison, you'll notice that the 2019 is on the far left. The projected is in the middle. The 2020 budget is on the right-hand side. This is the administration office part of the budget. This is the front office. The total labor budget for that is projected at $239,600 for next year. That includes salaries, Social Security, unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, and health insurance for our employees that work in the administration office. From there, it goes down through, and again, you're dealing with 2019 on the left, 2020 on the far right, and what they're projecting the year end, they'll be in the middle. Those are the same figures that are on the sheets you've got in front of you. So you can take those home. You'll be able to get your magnifying glass out like I did and look at them and put things together. Electricity, water, sewer, unless somebody really wants me to go down each one of those item for item for item, that takes an awful lot of time. But I want you to have this in your hands and to be able to see what you've got here. And again, we've got the next town hall meeting is going to be next month. We'll again address this as well as the reserve funding budget. So again, if you got a pencil and paper in your hand or not, or if you got good memory, if you've got questions that you want to propose before the next meeting, send them to gm@brookridge.com. Okay? That's where all the questions come into. GM, General Manager, @brookridge.com. This goes down and covers everything from the electricity, water, sewer, postage, printing, telephone, BCPO expense. You'll notice that they've Got categories, small equipment, for example, that we don't have anything in. Last year, we didn't this year. Maintenance and equipment, the same. Unforeseen emergency expense, there's nothing there. Insurance claims, nothing's anticipated to be spent, but still $1,000 in the projected budget. If you've dealt with budgets, and you all deal with them at home, I know you do, you set money aside. Just because you didn't spend it this year doesn't mean it's not going to come up again next year. So that's what we're working at and looking at. You'll see they've come down through, and example, good gracious, pick one, water sewer. It's $2,200 is what last year's budget was, $916. So they lowered the budget for 2020 for that category down to $1,000. They've taken down through, matter of fact, Rosemary, is your budget committee here? A lot of them are. Would the finance committee stand up? Please, please, please. So people can see who we're bringing on, okay? They have worked on this, I mean, really hard. They've looked down through, they've questioned, they've cut some things, and Ray has worked with them all the way through on things, trying to come down with a budget that's A, is fair, B, will meet the criteria or the needs of Brookridge, and move us through on an equitable basis coming in from there. So when you look at figures on that, bear in mind that this wasn't the board looking at it. None of the board members, other than Rosemary's on that committee, none of the board members have been in that. Well, I was there one day to give you some information, but none of the board members sit in on that. The general manager gives information and shares it, and he shared the first budget, which was one that you got last time. That was listed at $47 or something, I think it was. And that's where the finance committee has sit down and looked at every item, gone through, questioned things to see where things are at. But as you come down all the way through those, now what do you do with my clicker? There it is. Please.
They worked on it all by themselves, and they give it to me, and I do that at the end of the board for approval.
Did everybody hear that?
No vote on that.
Okay.
I don't influence them at all.
Finance Committee has taken this very serious. We've spent over 12 hours to date on this budget, and we've taken it very serious, each item.
Yep. Y'all they put a lot of time into this. They weren't just sitting and they weren't rubber stamping. They were asking questions, and a fantastic committee. We're looking at it this year and put things together. So it comes back in from there. The last part of that goes down to the accounting fees. You'll see, for example, last year, down towards the bottom of that, this one's not that gone. We had $3,000 in equipment rental. We didn't use anything, don't anticipate anything. They didn't carry that $3,000 figure over. $3,000 doesn't sound like an awful lot of money when you're looking at, $1,700,000, $1,500,000. But when you start looking at $2,000 here, $3,000 there, reduce some things and trying to get them as close to the bone as you can get them without hurting us, and that's what they've been looking at doing. Last year or this year, they had budgeted for office supplies $6,550. Well, they're projecting that $3,140 will be spent, so they dropped next year's budget down to $3,500. Okay? In that office up there, if you've been up there and worked with them, those ladies up there work very diligently to try and make sure they follow their budgets and stay in line, as does the clubhouse, public works, and facilities all the way around. So we're looking at grand total next year, $421,000 is the budget for the administration office. Okay? You'll see that figure again later. Notice the litigation was $11,000 last year, $3,000 this year, actually $11,000 and $3,000. Next year, those figures are projected at 24,000 and 15,000. You'll also look in the middle of that and see what they projected that they're going to spend this year, and that's 28,600 and 20,000, almost 20,300 being spent in attorney litigation fees. The reason that these were so little last year is because anybody remember what happened to the budget last year? It didn't get passed. Okay? When it doesn't get passed, you work with the previous year's budget. So they had to find ways to reduce expenses or reduce the budget to fit the money that was there available. So last year we reduced attorney litigation by 14,000 and bad debt by 20,000 to make the numbers equal out. When it comes down to attorney fees, and if we've got problems with people that were having problems living here, and you've got to get an attorney involved, you've got to pay it. They don't look at your budget and go, gee, that's all the money you got, sorry, that's all we'll take. Okay, they still charge you by the hour, and they do a real good job of it. Okay, we've got some good attorneys. They take care of us and keep us from there. So, budget comparison for facilities, that's the second sheet that you're going to be looking at in your folder. Again, it goes down through the wages, Social Security, unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, and health insurance. Last year, that figure for 2019 was $181,500. They're projecting $187,800 for 2020. Not a big increase there at all. Most of it, we're looking at trying to get some folks. We've got raises that we've got to consider. We know health insurance is going to do some things. So they're working there. And again, nobody's getting exorbitant raises. I see the paychecks go out, and I sign a bunch of stuff, and I'm always looking to make sure nobody got a $5,000 bonus. Okay? No, we don't have extra units. Again, the bottom part of that sheet, electricity, water, sewer, uniforms, telephone, and the Wi-Fi expense, all the way down, building supplies, fuel, truck maintenance, dumpster, equipment, all that comes down, and the total, grand total for them is $282,000. My eye don't see it's going blurry at me. Is that fuzzy up there to everybody else, or is it just me? Good? Okay. So that's the grand total for facilities. When we come down to public works, these are the people that take care of the streets, do the lawn mowing, put things together from there. Again, 2019 on the left, 2020 on the right. Wages, Social Security, unemployment, workman's comp, and health insurance. Total for that department is $115,200 projected for 2020. That's what they're asking for the budget. This year was $113,400. Again, increases you're looking up there at wages as you come down from there. Unemployment tax was $1,000 in the budget last year. Actually come down to $800 this year. They're projected, they want to ask for $500 in that area. I hope that'll be heard. So again, Finance Committee's looking at things, trying to keep them realistic but conservative at the same point. Electricity, lights, water, sewer, uniforms. I wonder why they put uniforms in ranks together. I haven't figured that out yet. But I know their uniforms are better than that, but it's uniforms and ranks. The 2 cell phones for that department, equipment expenses. And again, you bring down and equipment expense and rental. Last year was $7,500 they were looking at. We spent 9 to date, projected a $10,000 figure there for next year. Come down into building supplies, 500 was there. Didn't use any, but they left the $500 figure in. It's going to get used somewhere along the line for building. Tractor maintenance, diesel fuel, equipment rental, building maintenance, pest control, dumpster, small equipment rental, sprinkler maintenance, contract labor, equipment replacement, small equipment. That this year was $3,000. We hadn't spent any to date. $3,000 that was taken out of the budget for next year. Again, trying to make it realistic, but at least give them a budget going forward. Comes to a total of $245,000. Code enforcement, formerly known as security. It's code enforcement. Wages, Social Security, unemployment compensation, workman's comp, and all those total to $312,200. When we get down into it, and this includes our guardhouse, by the way, when about code enforcement, you're dealing with that. So you got your electricity, your water, sewer, uniforms, cell phone expenses, equipment rental expenses, barcodes, radio maintenance, my mouth is getting dry, excuse me, building supplies, vehicle fuel maintenance, building maintenance, gate maintenance liability, gate liability, equipment replacement. And again, equipment replacement was done this year, and they've taken that out of the budget again for next year. So again, trying to keep things down in the area that's workable. Total of that, $342,000 for code enforcement. This is the third draft also of the proposed 2020 income for this, how it's all going to fund itself out. Okay? Again, let's see, I can pick somebody to read the top line there. Assessments. $1,460,425. That was the 2019 budget. That's the 2020 budget. Now in this sheet you're looking at, they switched this so they messed you up, so 2020 is on the left, 2019 is budget is in the middle. Okay? So 2020, 2019. Assessments, keeping the same, $1,460,425. Mowing charges, garbage removal, miscellaneous, tree trimming, weed eaters, total landscaping income, $21,600. You notice that the assessment state, they're using the same figure at this point, $1,460,425. VCR fines, cost for damage to the VCPO property, enforcement of access, late fees, interest income, certified mail fees, filing fees, service fees, nothing in the attorney fees because they don't give us income, not straight up, and foreclosure fees. Gives us a total at that point of 60, I can't read it, Steve Gorey told me.
63.6.
63.7. Should have brought my glasses with me. I apologize to y'all. Estoppel fees. Miscellaneous fees are what's paid when somebody's going to buy a home and move in. Okay? That's what covers estoppel fees. Miscellaneous revenue, copy and postage, fax machine, pool pass fees, barcode fees, plates, Brookridge news, mail fees, people that have us mail the news and views to them. Hall rental, interest, operating accounts, rental income for non-hall, there's none there, and income expense, $27,000. So you're talking an income of $91,750. Now the reason that red circle's up the top around that $35,000, because if you look at last year, they projected $10,000. They'll end up with about $14,000 in income. So why in the dickens, if it's only $14,000, are we projecting $35,000? Because the board's always looking for ways to try and help the budget without dealing with our own backs on that, okay? I mean, it's a lot easier just to say, your $43 became $44. That's the way it is. What we found was that new laws have been passed, which allows a fee to be charged to people that are buying a home in here, or any home. and it's covered under estoppel fees. We have an average of about 200 homes turnover every year. Now, it doesn't affect you unless you sell your home and buy another home in here. But when they close, there's an estoppel fee now of $125. That $100 fee that we added into what we were charging, okay, made the difference of about $25,000 in income to Brookridge that doesn't come out of our pockets. Everybody with me? Okay, that's money you don't have to spend to do it. Somebody moving in here, it's their $100 coming out of their pocket. There's another area that we're looking at that might give us a little more income, and I'm not going to talk about that at this point. We've got to get things finalized and move forward from there. But we continue to look for ways to increase income without it being specifically from us. Okay? So administrative income, $91,750. This was my first attempt at this, and I thought, that looks all, I thought it took. So what I did is I went this way. The budget income source for 2020 and 2019. 2019 was looking at total income of $132,000. Total income that we're looking at for 2020 is $176,950. That's other income. Doesn't come into play with what we're paying in assessment fees. You'll see how that figures out in a minute. This is the sheet I told you need to replace. The one that's in there that's next to your last sheet, this is the separate sheet that's by itself. And I'm going to go over this with you because it lines everything out. It shows, for example, all the figures we just talked about for the administrative, facilities, public works, code enforcement. Okay? Well, the first change you want to make on those is one we didn't catch. Anybody catch it yet? Top right-hand corner. That should say 2020 budget, not 2019. It says 2019 on your forms. That's 2020 budget. 2020 budget is looking at $1,290,000. That's what all the expenses are for those, the administrative facilities, public works, and code enforcement. Okay, so if you take that, divide it by 2,830 homes. Actually, you take the figure, divide it by 12, and divide it by 2,830. If you take the figure, divide it by 2,830, you'll never come to the right amount. So take 1,290,000, 2,830 homes, and that comes to $37.99. That's what it takes from each home to take care of the expenses. Well, we've got miscellaneous income, all other income, that $176,950 that was the other income, that gets subtracted out. So that reduces $5.21, I think it is, off that. Okay? Then we take 2019 carryover. Notice there's nothing there. There's nothing there is there's no money to carry over. We spent, we're right at the edge. So there's no carryover money into the budget for next year. If you take $1,113,050, which is $32.72, 8 cents. I can't see that last figure, so thank you, I appreciate that. So $32.78 per home for your assessment. If you add into that the reserve funding that's needed to fund the reserve, we're going to talk about that next month again, that figure right now is projected at $438,900. That's $12.92, okay? So that means we now have $1,551,950 is what's needed for this budget for 2020. If you add all those up and subtract them out, you'll see that the new would be $45.70 assessment per home. That's $2.70 higher than we're currently paying. Now, I will tell you that tonight I was told that the Finance Committee has looked at some things, and they've cut a few other things along the line, and that's reduced by a few cents. Okay? But what we're looking at, to meet that budget that's been cut pretty darn good. The first budget I saw was the $47 and something. And that one had things in it that we needed to get done, but we looked at it and said, let's see what we can do different. Okay? As far as I know, this is the first time that we've ever sat with town hall meetings with folks on these. But we thought it was extremely important that as many people as we could get here, and I think we've got about 57 people here. Pretty good, huh? I counted 52 earlier, so there's got to be some walked in. And that you'll be able to address, when somebody else talks to you, for example, I had a person that was here at the last meeting that their neighbor said they keep increasing the assessment fee every year it goes up. If you weren't here at the last meeting, please go to YouTube and view that YouTube there. We've actually, since 2004, increased our assessments by a total of $9. That's a little bit under 58 cents a year increase. Okay, I think previous boards have done fantastic jobs, and we're all continuing to try and carry that over. But the fact of the matter is, there's no carryover from the budget from last year because we were operating with the prior year's budget, so we were operating on a 2018 budget. And if you've received your electric bill and everything else, yours has gone up, so's everything here. So that's where we stand. That's what we're looking at, folks. If you've got questions that you think of later, okay, please, gm@brookridge.com. Okay? If it's a simple little thing, we might get you an answer back then, but 9 chances out of 10, it's going to be one that's going to be answered at the next town hall meeting, because we want people to understand. Because if you've got the question, probably somebody else does too, and maybe they're not sure how to phrase it, or they think that's a stupid question. When you come to budgets, there's not a whole lot of questions that are stupid, so it goes in from there. I think Gary threw his hand up there, so can you get a microphone up here?
So the assessment's $45.70? The assessment's $45.
$45.70.
So is this going to be $45 or $46? We're not going to do 70 cents, are we?
No, it'll be 46.
Okay. I mean, we never did change before, so I mean, I was just...
Depends which side of the 50-cent marker it actually comes down in. If when the Finance Committee issues their final one, and it goes before the GM and then comes to the board approves it, and if it's $46.48, it'll be or $45.48, it'll be $45. If it's $45.70, it would go to 40 cents.
Thanks.
It's going to round to the next dollar up.
We got it below the 70 cents.
I'm sorry.
We got it below the 70 cents, the committee. It's $45 and 20-some cents. So that's why we rounded off to 45.
But that's the one that the Finance Committee's at now.
Yes.
So, you know, $45.21. So if that come into play, it'd be $45. Unless I can get a lot of input, we'll take it to 47. Ain't gonna happen.
Hi, I'm Joanne Edmonds. Unit, where on the boulevard. I just want to say I've been on finance committees before, and I've never seen anything like what I have seen tonight in the last town hall meeting. And I just commend each one of you that are on it. And to be able to come to where we are today from the last time that we met, and knowing that this isn't the final, I mean, it's, give yourselves a hand. I mean, you guys were absolutely
well deserved. They've done just, and the hours they've put into this have not been small. They've already said that over 12 hours. They've been working hard at it. Okay, it's already 10 after, and I try to keep this to an hour because I like to keep the meetings kind of short. Again, please, help other people understand this budget. I've heard talk that people are concerned because of the clubhouse and they think the money's coming out of the budget, so they're not going to vote for the budget. They're not going to vote for a new budget, no matter what it is. Boy, people, it's shooting ourselves in the foot because of the fact we took money last year to balance the budget out of the attorney stuff. Okay, we knew it was going to get spent. We don't have any money to do that with next year. We don't have any carryover. So if the budget didn't pass, okay, then the board has to take some serious looks at what areas can get cut to make the ballot, to make the
No pool.
to make it to budget. I mean, yeah, no pool. If we do that, I got to move. Okay. But I mean, seriously, you got to look at it. What you know, if you were on the board and the budget didn't pass, what do you do?
8 hours a day.
We got to make hard decisions, and those won't be easy decisions anywhere along the line. So, educate people. Please help us educate people. If you have questions, gm@brookridge.com. Did I see another hand go up real quick there?
Mary Star, Unit 6. I think not only is it important for us to explain to people this budget, but to get our neighbors out to vote for the budget.
Absolutely.
Last year's turnout was really bad. If we could spread that word, it would be a big help, I think, also.
Yep. Highest turnout we've ever vote is 18% of 2,830 votes. 18%.
Ron.
Nobody else? Oh, Paul.
Ron, from what I have gathered, this budget is going to be a mail vote?
It will be actually 3 ways. I didn't mean to stutter like that. But, you'll be able to vote here. Everybody's going to get a copy mailed to them because it's approved by the board. Okay? So you'll be able to come in here and vote. The people that are out will be able to vote by mail, and they'll be able to vote online. So there's going to be 3 ways for people to vote. If they're up in Maine or wherever they're at,
so what you're
go
saying,
online and vote.
2,850 homes are going to get a mail ballot.
Yes.
Okay.
2,830 homes.
Whatever.
2,830 homeowners. Okay? Because some of those homeowners don't live here. Okay? We do have rental properties here, and some of those landlords live off-site, so, yeah.
One other thing. Since we're doing this on a mail ballot, and then next year we're going to have another mail ballot for the election of officers, correct?
The election of officer will not be a ballot. It will be a walk-in.
Oh, okay.
We can't do those online. We can't do them.
Because when I lived in High Point for 10 years, their ballots went out in November, but on that ballot was their budget, was their officers, running for officers, and any amendment changes. So they accomplished everything with one ballot. I know ours isn't set up like that, but to save money in the future, if we had to do a couple mail-out ballots, we could think about doing an amendment change to incorporate everything into one ballot.
I think one of the reasons that the board elections and unit rep elections are not held until March of the year, and that meeting used to be later too. We backed it up to try and accommodate our seasonal folks. That some have to leave the end of March. But the reason that those aren't done at this point is if they're done in November, if you're seasonal, okay, or if you're away on vacation, you haven't had a chance to maybe interact or see who's what's doing what.
So I said everything was done by mail ballot there. To save money.
I think their HOA is a little bit higher than ours too. Okay? People, thank you for coming. If you didn't get a donut, it's too late now because I'm taking the rest home. No, get a donut, take some. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Have a great evening.